morning, everyone. Today, the class's topic is dental implants. We'll see the basics of the dental implants, its indications, contraindications, and what is the surgical procedures and osseointegration, and what are the uses of the dental implants. I'm Dr. S. Parthivan, MDS, Department of Periodontics. I'm going to take the class today. Tooth loss is missing your tooth due to various conditions. Tooth loss is normal for a deciduous tooth where they are replaced by a person's adult tooth. Otherwise, losing a tooth is undesirable and is a result of injury or a disease or a avulsion or a tooth decay or due to gum diseases. How do we replace the missing tooth? If a completely edentulous region where we miss all the teeth, we go for full dentures, and if it is a partially edentulous region, we go for partially dentures. In this, we have a fixed type of dentures and removable type of dentures. In this picture, we see the removable type of dentures which are placed over the alveolar mucosa and anchored with the adjacent tooths. This is a fixed denture where the adjacent tooths are prepared to support the bridge over which the pontics are placed, and the bridge will function as a normal tooth. And we have dental implants. Dental implants are placed inside the bone and will anchorage the bridge. Dental implants will be can be placed for a single tooth replacement or for a multiple tooth replacements with the increase in number of implants. What is an implant? Implant are the devices or tissue that are placed inside or on the surface of the body intended to replace the missing body parts or to serve other purposes such as delivering medication, monitor body functions, or provide support to organs and tissues. What is the dental implant? We see the definition of the dental implant. A dental implant is a surgical component that interfaces with the bone of the jaw or skull to support a dental prosthesis such as crown, denture, facial prosthesis, or to act as an orthodontic anchor. See the historical perspective of the implants. Going back to the 600 AD in Maya civilization, there are evidences that shells are placed in shape of teeth for place of missing teeth in the mandibular teeth region. And way back in 18th century, we have seen with the cadavers with the implants which are made about gold alloys or porcelain implanted into the jawbone. Evidence show that Greenfield used a iridoplatinum implant in the 19th century. Later in the 19th century, Per Ingvar Brännmark, a Swedish orthopedic surgeon, during his experiments with microscopic circulation of bone marrow, discovered that titanium implants get integrated into the bone without any adverse bone or soft tissue reactions. This is the starting point of dental implants. So the dental implants are nowadays used for single tooth replacement or multiple tooth replacement or complete tooth replacement as crown, bridge supported implants, denture supported with implants. What is the surface composition of the implant? Implants are made up of basically of titanium, which is biocompatible and which has no allergic reaction and which is high ultimate strength and with low modulus of elasticity. These characteristics plays an important role in the implant as a titanium used as an implant. Pure titanium is highly reactive when exposed to the atmosphere. With microseconds, an oxide layer is formed. This oxide layer reacts with the bone surface, so the osseointegration happens with the titanium. And we have zirconium implants. The advantages of zirconium implants are it osseointegrates with bone like titanium, which have high aesthetics and used in patients with who are allergic to titanium. Disadvantages of zirconium implants is made in a single body because zirconium components which can be screwed to the zirconium body have not yet been developed. But the titanium implants we have various parts of titanium implants making a complete implants product. The basis of modern dental implants is a biological process called osseointegration, that is bone to implant interface, where materials such as titanium form an intimate bond to the bone. The implant fixture is first placed so that it is likely to osseointegrate, then a dental prosthetics is added to it. A variable amount of healing time is required for the osseointegration before either the dental prosthetics is attached to the implant or an abutment is placed. We either have a healing time of months, around 3 to 6 months. What are the indications for placing an implant? Generally, any edentulous area can be an indication for a dental implants. Severe morphologic compromise for denture supporting areas and patients with poor oral muscular coordination, lower tolerance of mucosal tissue to the removable dentures, and patients with parafunctional habits leading to recurrent soreness and instability of prosthesis, active or hyperactive gag reflexes elicited by a removable process. Patient with physiological inability to wear a removable prosthesis, even if adequate denture retention is also there and stability is there. Unfavorable number and location of potential abutment in a residual dentition. Single tooth loss to avoid involving neighboring teeth as an abutment. These are the indications where we place an dental implants. What are the contraindications where we can't place an implant? When there is an acute illness or there is a terminal illness and if patient is pregnant and with uncontrolled metabolic diseases, tumor radiation patients, history of intravenous bisphosphonate therapy which causes bone resorption, and the patients who are unable to restore teeth prosthodontically because due to the lack of space in the dentitions. And inability of the patient to manage oral hygiene is also a contraindication for implants. Patient hypersensitive to specific components of implants are also contraindicated for placing an implant. We'll see about the classifications of dental implants. We have endosseous implants, subperiosteal implants, and the transosseous implants. What is the endosseous implants? Endosseous implants are placed inside the bone. So they are subdivided as root form, blade form, or a ramus frame. Subperiosteal implants are placed over the periosteum of the bone, alveolar bone, which are subdivided as complete, unilateral, and circumferential. Transosseous implant is implant which pass inside the bone from one side of the cortical bone to the other side, which are subdivided as stable, single pill, and multiple pin implants. So we see the picture of a transosseal implants where the implants pass through the alveolar bone completely. for anchorage. And subperiosteal implant, where we can see a implant which uses the periosteum of the alveolar bone for anchorage. And the endosteal implants, which are placed inside the alveolar bone using the cortical and the cancellous bone. And we can see various types of shapes of the implants. We can see a blade implant, you can see a cylinder tapered implant, and a screw tapered implants. These implants are placed inserted within the jawbone, but not transosteally. So we see about the indications for placing an implant, each implant. So endoosseous implant can be placed with adequate bone to support the implant with width and height being the primary dimension of concern. So maxillary and mandibular arch locations and completely or partially edentulous. This is a very ideal form of implant. Ramus frame implants are indicated in adequate anterior bone to support the implant with width and height being the primary dimension of concern. Mandibular arch locations and in completely edentulous regions. Subperiosteal implants were indicated in the region where atrophy of bone is seen, but with adequate bone to support the implant is provided. Maxillary and mandibular arch locations, completely and partially edentulous patients, stable bone should be there for placing the subperiosteal implants. And the transosseal implants, which should have a adequate anterior bone to support the implant with width and height being the primary dimension of the concern. Anterior mandibular arch locations are indicated for this transosseous implant. Completely and partially edentulous patients are indicated for this transosseous implants. So for a long-term successful performance of an implants, general factors like biomaterials, the material which is implant is made at, biomechanics, the aids which are used to place the implant, and considerations such as dental evaluation, medical evaluation, and surgical requirements, and the patient's healing processes, and what type of prosthodontics we're going to place over the implants, and how does the patient maintain the post-insertion period. If all things plays an important role for a successful outcome of an implant. Generally accepted implant successful criteria are the individual unattached implant is mobile when tested. So it should not be mobile and no evidence of pre-implant radiolucency in the radiograph. The mean vertical bone loss should be less than 0.2 mm annually after the first year of service. No pain, no discomfort or infection is attributable to the implant. The implant design does not preclude placement of a crown or a prosthesis with an appearance that is satisfactory to the patient and the dentist. So in this condition, the implants are considered success. You can see a radiograph of the implant where the implant is successfully placed inside the bone, a 10-year-old implant, and we can see a minimal bone loss in the cervical region, and which usually happens in the initial period. After that, there will be no bone loss seen. Next, we see about the implant components. We have abutment, we have cover screw, and we have the implant. So which is the second, third number which is shown in the diagram is the abutment, and the second number is the cover screw, and the fourth is the implant body, and the number one is the crown, which is not a implant component but it is a prosthetic component. Osseointegrant implant are generally designed to support screw and cement retain implant. So when you place an implant and an abutment, it should either support a crown with cement or it should be screw retain for a fixed prosthesis. See about the implant body. The dental implant, often referred to as fixture, is the component placed within the bone during the first stage of surgery. There are various types of root form. We can see the threaded root form and the non-threaded root forms. The main categories of implant bodies are titanium screws, which are coated with hydroxyapatite, and titanium plasma sprayed cylinders and hydroxyapatite coated cylinders. These are the various coatings we can see over the implant body. You can see the surfaces, which is a smooth surface implant, just mesh surface implant, and we have a textured implant, and we can see a coated type of implants in this picture. Next is the healing screw. After we place an implant, during the healing phase, after the first stage surgery, a screw is normally placed in superior aspect of the fixture. The screw is usually low in profile to facilitate the suturing and soft tissue in two-stage implant and minimize the loading in the one-stage implant. A second stage surgery is required to remove the screw and place the subsequent components. And we can place an interim healing abutment or dome-shaped screws placed after the second stage surgery and before the insertion of the prosthesis. These abutments range from 2 to 10 mm and project through the soft tissue and oral cavities. These abutments may screw directly into the implant body or in systems onto the abutment after the second stage of surgery. And these are the abutments. Abutments are the holding part of the crown. Abutment are the components of the implant system that screw directly to the implant and which holds the crowns or bridges. Abutments eventually support the prosthesis in either way, such as screw retained way or through a cement retained restorations. We have various angulated abutments to match the profile of the patients. These abutments like a prepared tooth for a conventional fixed prosthesis, which where we prepare two teeth and over which we place a crown. This abutment act as a prepared tooth. The walls of the abutment are usually smooth, polished, and straight-sided. The length range from 1 to 10 mm. The choice of the abutment depends on the vertical distance between the fixture base and the opposing dentition, the existing sulcular depth, and the aesthetic requirements in the area being restored. And we see some of the prosthetic components which are aided for impression. So after we place an implant, we can place a impression coping so that impression coping may screw into the implant or into the abutment and customly divided the fixture type of abutments. So we can take the impression with the coping. We can do it as a transfer indirect for we can send it to the lab where they pour the model and prepare the abutment surface and over which they prepare the crown. Or we can make it as a pickup or a direct method where we place the abutment and over which the impression is taken and its crown is placed over the abutment. And we have implant analogs. Implant analogs are made to represent the top of the implant fixture, the abutment to the laboratory. So this analogs goes inside the cast surface. So it acts as a implant body inside the patient body. Likewise, in cast, this implant analog act as an implant surface. So for a laboratory work, this implant analog can be useful for making a denture or a crown. Therefore, analogs can be classified as fixture analogs or abutment analogs. So if we place an abutment analogs, the over which we can place the abutment and the crown can be made, and fixture analog where we can use for a screw retained uh, crown fixture. And we have a waxing sleeve to cover the abutment to eventually become a process of a prosthetist. In non-segmented implant crown, the sleeves are attached directly to the implant body analog in the cast. And we have the screws which retain the crown. If we do a screw retained implants, these are part of a prosthesis. But if you do a cement retained crowns, we get a normal crown which we lute with the abutment in the patient mouth. Going to the next part of the class, we see the how do we place the implant. This is called as basic surgical procedure for placing an implant. So before placing an implant, we have to see some of the criterias. We have to have a atraumatic extraction technique to preserve the bone socket, and we have to place a intermediate prosthesis to maintain the space vertically as well as mesially and distally. And we have to plan for the timing of the implants after the healing of the socket. Usually, for a complete socket to heal, it takes to 2 to 3 months for a complete socket healing. For implant placement, we have to prepare the patient, we have to do a soft tissue incision, and we have to do a implant site preparation, and then we have to place the implant. We'll see each one step by step. Patient preparation. How do we prepare a patient for a implant surgery? We have to preoperatively give antibiotic prophylaxis so that any chance of infection is reduced. And we have to give a profound local anesthesia in the region for placing an implant. And the patient can rinse with 15 ml of 0.12% chlorhexidine gluconate for 30 seconds immediately before the start of the surgery to reduce the oral microbial contamination. How do you give a incision? Several type of incisions are used to gain the access to the residual ridge of the implant placement. The incision should be designed to allow the convenient retraction of the soft tissue. So when we give a proper incision, the soft tissue can be retract easily without any tear. It should preserve or increase the quantity of the attached tissue and preserve the local soft tissue aesthetics. So this is the first step. We place an incision using a 15 number blade or a 12 number blade. We place an incision on the mucosal surface and we retract the flap. So after we prepare the incision and we expose the bone, we have to have a surgical guide template which should be prepared before the placement of the implant, which can be positioned and a preliminary assessment of the implant site can be made. The residual ridge may have areas of unevenness or sharp ridges that are best reduced with a ronger or a burr to smooth the bone surface before drilling the implant placement. The fibrous tissue in the area should be removed so that it not be incorporated with the implant site and there will be less bleeding in the implant site. Placement procedures for all implant system require atraumatic preparation of the recipient site. A low speed, high torque dental handpiece, and a copious irrigation with the saline are necessary to prevent the excess thermal injury to the bone. So we can see a picture where the bone is exposed and the surgical template is placed, and next we have to place the implant. All implant system have an initial small diameter drill that is used to mark the implant site. So we have that is called as a pilot drill, which we use for the initial drill. With the initial drill, the center of the implant recipient site is marked and the initial pilot hole is prepared. The implant recipient site preparation continues by drilling with a series of gradually larger bursts. So, with the desired diameter we attain suitable for the bone diameter, then the implant sizes are pre evaluated and the implants are placed inside the bone. After the desired depth and the diameter of the recipient site is accomplished, the implant is placed. Although some implants are pressed into the place, most are threaded and must screwed in place by handpiece at a very slow speed or by hand. Final tightening of implants in most cases is done by a hand with a ratchet. After all implant is placed, the wound site should be closed without exposing any implant surface. A radiograph should be taken postoperatively to evaluate the position of the implant in relation to the adjacent structure such as sinus or inferior alveolar curve, and the patient should be provided analgesia, and the patient can also be instructed to use a 0.12% chlorhexidine gluconate for 2 weeks after the surgery to help keep the bacterial population at a minimum during the healing. A patient is evaluated weekly until soft tissue wound healing is complete. So, if the patient wears a tissue-borne denture over the area of the implant surface, the denture should be relined with a soft liner. After 1 week, the patient can wear the denture. Interim partial dentures or orthodontic retainers with an attached pontic may be worn immediately but must be countered to avoid soft tissue loading over the implant surface. And next is the prosthetic stage. For a delayed implants, we have to wait for 3 to 4 months. And a second stage surgery, the implant site is reopened, and the cover screw is taken out, and the gingival former is fitted on the implant for 1 week. After 1 week, the gingival former is removed, and we place the abutment for making the final prosthesis. So this is the picture. We can see the procedure of implant. Initial picture, there is a wide ridge suitable for placing an implant is taken for placing an implant. Then a incision, horizontal incision is placed on the ridge, and the soft tissue is exposed. Soft tissue is soft tissue flap is retracted and the bone surface is seen. After the drilling procedures, we can see the hole of the drill, and then we have to place the implants inside the drilled surface and then suture it back. So implants are inside the soft tissue. The sixth picture. Seventh picture, we have to open it after 3 to 4 months. Then we have to place a healing abutment. This healing abutment, you can see provide a wonderful soft tissue contour around the implant surface. Then after which the final abutment is fixed and over which the crown is fixed. Radiographic picture shows the implant placed at a distance. Inter implant distance is very important for a successful implant, and the crown's prosthesis should be managed in such a way the force distribution is transversely proportional to the implant body, not to the alveolar ridge, to prevent the alveolar reception. And the adjacent tooth should not be involved, and to and the intertooth distance should be sharply closed to prevent food impaction inside the implant region. So next we see how does the implant also fit inside the bone. This process is called as osseointegration. The primary goal of implant stability is to achieve and maintain a stable bone to implant connection. This term is as osseointegration. Clinically, osseointegration is asymptomatic, fixed, rigid fixation of an alloplastic material in bone with the ability to withstand occlusal forces. Histologically, osseointegration is defined as the direct structural and functional connection between the ordered living bone and the surface of the load bearing implant without intervening soft tissues. It was given by Brainmark et al. In 1986. So, for osseointegration, the bone should be fused with the implant surface. You can see the histological picture where the bone is fixed with the implant surface and got the shape of the implant. So this type of osseointegration is affects the stronger stability of the implant. So after osseointegration is, we can see a clinical evidence of a successful implant. Implants will not be mobile, and when tested, also clinically, also the implant will be very strong. The implant should be asymptomatic. There should be absence of persistent signs and symptoms of pain or swelling or infection. Stable bone crystal levels are seen. Annual rate of bone loss should be less than 0.2 mm after the first year in the function. Radiographic evidence of increasing mineralization of the newly bone formed at the implant surface. Radiographic evidence of increasing mineralization of the newly bone formed at the implant surface. So the healing will be proper in a osseointegrated size. And we can see a healthy soft tissue, and we in the radiograph we can see a peri-implant radiolucency. We can't see any peri-implant radiolucency, that is absence of peri-implant radiolucency. uh, Concept of fibrointegration also is seen, where the implant we have a fibro-osseointegration which is equal to the periodontal ligament between the alveolar bone and the implant. So the phases of osseointegration is, after the implant is placed, a bone clot formation at the implant bone surface will be seen immediately after the implant placement, in which the infiltration of the neutrophils and the macrophages are seen on the 3 to 5 days. This is called as inflammatory phase of the osseointegration. And we can see after this, there will be a local hypoxia and there will be release of new cytokines. So the new vascular registration start forming. This is the called as proliferative phase. After the proliferative phase, there is a cellular differentiation start happening, and the matrix synthesis get uniform, and there will be new bone formation that is called as osteogenesis, and bone formation around the implants, and there will be a lamellar bone formation also will be seen. This is the maturation phase of osseointegration. As with the success of the implant, there are also many implant complications we can endure while placing an implant. But a proper case summary and with the proper radiographic uh, markings, we can place a successful implant. But without proper diagnosis or case selection, the implant may lead to many complications. There are chances of bleeding, and cortical plate perforations can also happen. And if you injure the adjacent tooth, there will be devitalization of the adjacent tooth may happen, and the implant or component ingestion or aspiration may happen if there is any loose implant parts which is not properly tightened or ratcheted. And if you don't mark the nerve level, and if you place the implant length more than the margins, the implant may impinge on the nerves, alveolar nerves, and cause a nerve injury, which may cause a paresthesia, temporary or permanent paresthesia, and a mandible fracture if there is a condition of osteoporosis or any bone calcium defects are seen. There are chances of mandible fracture to the patient. And if you place inside the sinus, the implants perforate into the sinus and it get dislodged in the sinus, and then we have to retrieve the implants from the sinus region. If there is an infection or bony, if the tissue is not healed, there are chances of periimplantitis or a periimplant mucositis. These are the implant complications. So we have, if there is a implant complications, we will see a ailing implants which requires some treatment to make it as a successful implant, or it may lead to a severe bone loss, which is called as a failing implants, where you can see a bone loss, vertical bone loss seen around the implant, and then later leads to a failed implant. This is considered as peri-implantitis and failed implants. Next class we'll be dealing on peri-implantitis. What are the factors which are responsible for an implant to get failed and for a successful of the implant. Thank you everyone for the kind listening. This is my email address and my contact number. If there is any clarification or doubts, you can call me and ask. Thank you.